Good evening, everyone. Today we are discussing about the topic key issues in the study of cognitive psychology. There are 7 issues in this context that are nature versus nurture, rationalism versus empirism, structures versus processes, domain generality versus domain specificity, validity of causal inferences versus ecological validity, applied versus basic research, biological versus behavioral methods. These are the main issues in cognitive psychology. We can move to first issue, that is nature versus nurture. So this is one of the oldest issue in psychology, which is more influential in human cognition, nature or nurture. That was the major question we had the beginning onwards. So this centers on the relative contributions of genetic inheritance and environmental factors to human development. So the nature versus nurture concerns the extent to which specific hallmarks of behavior are an outcome of inherited or acquired effects. That was the major debates going on this context. So we will have a comparison here. Here you can see that nature is pre-wiring and nature is affected by genetic inheritance and other biological processes. That is the main thing. Nature always affected by the genetic inheritance or any other biological processes. But in nurture, it is the impact of external variables on an individual after conception. That will be the outcome of exposure, life events or learning. That is the difference between this nature and nurture. The second issue is that rationalism versus empirism. So rationalism claims that there are significant ways in which our concepts and knowledge are gained independently of sense experience. But empiricist claims that sense experience is the ultimate source of all our concepts and knowledge. So, rationalists establish their point of view in 2 ways. The first way is that they contend that there are instances in which the content of our thoughts or knowledge exceeds the information that sense experience can supply. And they build narratives of how to reason in some form or another and delivers more information about the world. So they believe that reason is the source of all knowledge and mind contains innate ideas and knowledge can be gained. So the senses are easily fooled, like that they believe. But just opposing the viewpoints, they create accounts of how experience applies the knowledge that rationalists reference to the extent that we have it in the first place. So, empiricists will sometimes choose skepticism over rationalism. So, if experience cannot offer the ideas or knowledge that rationalists reference, then they don't have them. So they criticize rationalists' views of how reason is a source of conceptions of knowledge. That means they believe that the senses are the source of all knowledge and they consider mind as a tabula rasa. That means a blank slate. So knowledge is gained, knowledge can gained and it can ever be probable, and they believe that reasons only gives us access to uninformative things. That was the beliefs they had. So these are the viewpoints of that empiricists and the rationalists. So the facts about ourselves and the world around us can be discovered by applying reason and logic or observing and evaluating our observation. So the third issue is that structures versus processes. Should we study the structures of the human mind or should we focus on the process of human thinking? That is the issue we are facing. So it is about knowing the forms of the human mind as well as the process of human thinking. So we have to know about the forms of human mind, also the processes of human thinking. Next issue is that domain generality versus domain specificity. So are the processes limited to single domains or variety of domains? Or do observation in one domain apply also to all domains or specific domains? That is the difference here. So the processes should be limited to single domain or variety of domains, or the observation we have in one domain can apply to all domains or a particular domain. The issue says about. So it involves learning about the processes or observation that are examined, restricted to a particular domain and applying to all fields. Next issue is that validity of causal inferences versus ecological validity. So should we study cognition by using highly controlled experiments that increases the probability of valid inferences regarding causality? Should we use naturalistic techniques? That was the major questions in this context. So, should we use cognition by controlled experiments, or should we use naturalistic techniques? So for reliable conclusions about causation, psychologists may employ controlled experiments or utilize more naturalistic procedures for ecological validity. It is about saying cognition through highly controlled studies or via biological studies. The next issue is that applied versus basic research. So should we conduct research into fundamental cognitive processes, or should we study ways in which to help people use cognition effectively in practical situations? That is the question in this context of this issue in the cognitive psychology. So basic research means basic research. Curiosity drives the basic research, and its goal is to provide answers to why, what, and how. So the basic questions are undergoing. The answers are the question to what are the things or how we use this or why we are doing such. So like that questions we are arising, and it provides answer for that. So it doesn't have explicit commercial aims. It doesn't always result in creativity or realistic approach. But in the case of applied research, it seeks to address particular issues to solve actual difficulties. So it seeks to address particular issues to solve the difficulties undergoing. So the new information gained through applied research has explicit commercial goals. And the last issue is that biological versus behavioral methods. Should we study the brain and its functions directly? Perhaps even scanning the brain while people are performing cognitive tasks. Should we study people's behavior in cognitive tasks, looking at measures such as percentage correct and reaction time? That means this issue, the last issue in the cognitive psychology, that is this biological and behavioral methods. It's sometimes related to the first issue, that is nature-nurture argument. The biological psychological approach is closely related to the nature side of the nature-nurture argument. So the concept presumes that all behaviors is obstinate by heredity and a person's biological or chemical makeup. And in this context, environment has no influence on your behavior, and that your actions, decisions, and manner of life can be traced back to your parents, from whom you got your DNA. So that is fully related to the influence they had. The behavioral approach, in contrast, contains that human conduct is the outcome of our interactions with our surrounding. So, comparing to that biological context, behavioral approach is completely related to the outcome of our interactions with our surroundings. So we are believed to be born with a blank slate and are molds and influenced by the people and environment around us from that moment on. So this method emphasizes the nurture side in the issue of nature-nurture debate. So these are the main issues coming under this cognitive psychology. That's all about today's class. Thank you so much.